Good morning, everybody here, and to everybody out there on YouTube. Welcome to Unity of Port St. Lucie Sunday service. Please stand and join us as we sing our opening song, One Light.
Shines inside of me. One light brings us all together. One light inside you and me. One light shines in every person that I see. It's the light that shines inside of me. It's the light that shines inside of me.
I invite you to sit back in your chair and relax as we open our hearts and minds and join them together in our prayer for inner peace. Creator of all that is, I open my heart and mind this morning to the presence of God that is within me and in everyone and everything, that one power and one presence. I let God's peace fill my being. In this presence, I am peaceful, poised, confident, and strong. I relax in God's loving care and release all my cares, knowing that God is upholding me and sustaining me in all that I do. God's presence calms me, quiets the storms around me, and leads me to a place of perfect peace. As I center myself in that peaceful presence this morning, I let go of every concern and relax in the safety of God's love and in the love of those around me. I find Unity of Port St. Lucie a sanctuary of love and peace, and I am open and receptive to receive all it has to soothe my mind and soul this day. As we take that peace and feel it in our hearts, I would like us to send it around the world today, beginning with Port St. Lucie and spreading out, and especially to the island nation of Haiti, who now has lost over 300 people and is facing a hurricane or a storm. And we send love and comfort and peace of mind to them and to all the people here in the United States and in other nations waiting to hear. And so hold them in the healing light and love of God as they get through one crisis and face another. And we bless them. And so it is. Amen. If you would join me in our statement of faith. There is only one power and one presence in my life and in the universe, God the good, omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence. And our core values, Unity of Port St. Lucie encourages diversity and embraces harmonious and creative pursuits of truth and knowledge in a safe environment to achieve balance and wholeness in the world. Oh, vision, more. Unity of Port St. Lucie is an expanding community for personal healing and spiritual growth. Okay, and then please stand and join us in our congregational song, Thank You for This Day.
Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. Thank you for my life, Spirit, thank you for my life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit, thank you for my friends. My beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful friends. My beautiful, my beautiful, my beautiful friends. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit, thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day.
Our daily word today is going to be read by Marvia Reed.
Good morning, everyone. Today's affirmation is, I say yes to the joy that invites me in this moment. Joy is the call of my heart. Whether I am at work or at play, I bring a spirit of joyfulness to everything I do. More than a mood or an attitude, joy is part of me and mine to live and to share. Like all aspects of my divine identity, joy flowers in my consciousness when I hold joyful thoughts and joyful feelings. I express my joy as the excitement of anticipation, fascination at a new discovery, deep satisfaction in a relationship, and the tranquil glow from communing with God in prayer. My joy is contagious, and I love to share in it. I have feelings of joy when I take part in a friend's or family member's joyous moments, their celebrations, and their accomplishments. I feel quiet joy when I offer encouragement and even when I give comfort, grateful to share the care and love of God. Shall we repeat the affirmation? I say yes to the joy that invites me in this moment. Amen.
As we prepare for meditation with Reverend Linda Machezik, please join in singing Surely the Presence.
We're going to try this a cappella this morning. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel God's mighty power and God's grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence
Of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Beautiful. I invite you, friends, to sit in your seats and release any tension at all that you might have been experiencing up until this moment right now.
Scan your body and relax your shoulders, a place where we normally hold tension or stress. You might lift them gently up toward your ears and then release them slowly, just letting them fall. They'll find their way. Scan your face. Soften your eyes, your lips. Relax. It's helpful to place both feet squarely and firmly on the ground, making a connection to Mother Earth, and laying aside anything you might be holding in your hands, and placing them on your lap or on your knees, palms up, open, open, like the rest of you right now. Open, open to receive all that is good, all that is good. Allow it to infiltrate your very essence, penetrate your skin and your bones, invade your body lovingly and gently. Feel the goodness, fill your body cavity. Feel the aliveness of it, the vitality of it, the peace that it brings with it. This is God, God, goodness. Breathe it in, friends. Relax into it. Breathe into it. Knowing with every breath you take, you expand that energy of goodness right now. Smile at the experience of it. Smile in your heart. Smile on your face. Smile. This is a sacred moment right now. Sitting together as a spiritual community, both here and at home, sitting together in a space where there is no separation among us. Breathe into that truth. We are all one in God, all one. Allow that truth to sink in, to land softly on your heart. Be with the goodness that is God now, together, quietly, privately. Be with it. Breathe into it. Sit with it in the silence together. How blessed is the silence, friends. How precious is this time of releasing and letting go and washing ourselves in the goodness, becoming one with it, the goodness that is God. And before we open our eyes and ground ourselves in that goodness, let us send that goodness now, because we know that all we have to do is set the intention. And it automatically spreads beyond our bodies. Send this goodness, send this experience of God to people everywhere, everywhere. Healthcare workers, tired, stressed. People in Afghanistan, overwhelmed, worried, in danger. Yes, people in Haiti, people everywhere, everywhere. Send this goodness, friends. Join me. Join me in directing it around the entire globe. Goodness, the essence of God. See it enfolding the earth. See it in your mind's eye. We know when we do this together, the power behind it is increased exponentially. So we exercise that power together, and we use it for the good of humanity everywhere. And when we're ready, slowly and gently we open our eyes and ground ourselves in this experience and top it off by singing about love.
We are one in the bond of love. We are one in the bond of love. We have joined our spirit with the Spirit of God. We are one in the bond of love. We are one in the bond of love. We are one in the bond of love. We have joined our spirit with the Spirit of God. We are one in the bond of love. We are one in the bond of love.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
What a nice group today. Good morning to all of you sitting here, and good morning to those of you watching now, or those of you who will watch later in the week, when it's a better time for you to be spiritually fed than this morning. So I want to talk about spiritual maturity today. Now you might ask yourself, what donuts have to do with that? Nothing. You know, I don't know how many of you work with PowerPoint, but the newest version of PowerPoint, when you're creating your slides, will automatically sometimes make a suggestion about some neat way, oh, they really spun fast there, to create a background. And so this popped up, and I found it so irresistible, I had to share it with you. And I'm not even a donut eater. Those don't appeal to me in the slightest, you know, but I think they're pretty. So I want to talk about spiritual maturity, and we'll let the donuts go. Anybody's mouth watering? How many of you are donut eaters? Be honest. Only 1, 2, 3. Oh, I don't. Okay. See, the young people are totally, totally honest about this, right? Donuts. All right. So I want to talk about spiritual maturity, but in order to do that, I think that I need to define some words. And one of the reasons I think I need to define some words is because when I was creating this talk, when I was thinking about it and it was forming this week, I realized that I don't know I don't know if I ever, and if I did, I don't remember doing it, sat down and defined for myself the word spiritual in the first place. I take it for granted, the word. I use it all the time. You know that. We use it all the time. And what does it really, really, really mean? And then the word mature, spiritually mature. So what do we mean by mature? And by mature, it has nothing to do with your hair color, has nothing to do with your calendar age, actually. You can be spiritually mature and be 21, and spiritually immature and be 101. It makes no difference, has nothing to do with that. Mature means fully developed. Let's use that definition. Fully developed, fully grown. And of course, we're talking spiritually, so fully grown spiritually, fully developed spiritually is what I'm referring to. And the word spiritual, well, I know that over the years, there's a phrase I've heard all the time using the word spiritual. In fact, I've heard it used outside of Unity. It's big on the internet if you're searching and reading about such things. And that is people claiming that I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. You ever hear that? Of course you have. And that caused me to pause, because it popped into my head when I started to develop this talk about spirituality. And I said, no, hold on a minute. So let's flush that out. Let's tease that out a little bit. I know it'll serve me, and I know, therefore, that it'll serve you as well. So what do we mean, first of all, by spiritual? I go to my favorite dictionary, which is the Oxford English Dictionary, and I looked it up, and here's what I found as a definition for spiritual. Relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. Let me repeat that. Relating to or affecting the human spirit. That's what spiritual means. Relating to or affecting the human spirit. And then I looked up the word religious in the same dictionary, just for fun. And here's what I found. Relating to or believing in a religion. Duh. I can remember in college that my professors went, no, no, no. If you dared use a form of the word in defining the word, it didn't count. But Oxford did it, and I don't know how they got away with it. So that didn't really give me what I was looking for. How come we say spiritual and not religious? I need more. Well, you know what? I found the answer in the synonyms. You know what a synonym? Another word for a word that means the same thing. So look what I found. Look at the most common synonyms for the word spiritual, and they're on the screen. Words that mean the same thing. Inner, mystical, love that one. Metaphysical, I didn't put that there. Oxford did. Non-physical, and transcendent. Those are synonyms for the word spiritual. We're a spiritual community. Look at us. Look at the words that describe us. We're spiritual beings. Look at us. So now let's look at the words, synonyms for religious. Right out of the Oxford English Dictionary, I chose only 5. There were many more. Pious. Devout. God-fearing. Dutiful. Holy. Right? Did I say more? You see, for me, the clarity came in the synonyms. That's why we say we're spiritual, not religious. Do you know, truly, it isn't the way we do church on Sunday morning necessarily. It's much deeper than that. So, spiritually mature. Are we? Well, I don't know. Let's find out. The question we want to ask ourselves is, how well developed are we spiritually, right? I said that's what spiritual maturity means, how well developed we are, how fully grown up are we spiritually, and how do we know? There's the thing. Only you can answer that question, but you need a tool, I think, in order to do it. So let's find out. Are you ready? Are you going to play along with me? Will you play? Raise your hand if you're willing to play this morning. Oh, good. Several years ago, when I was living in Daytona Beach, and my dear friend Carmen Zappi was the spiritual leader at the Unity Church in Daytona Beach, and I did church alongside of her, mostly as a volunteer for a couple years, and we had a blast. I love her dearly. She brought in Reverend Tony Bain one year to do a board training, and I know some of you know Reverend Tony. She used to come around to the Unity Church in Port St. Lucie when we were at the other locations. I don't know that she's been back since we're here, but she doesn't do it as much anymore either. But anyway, I know some of you know her, Reverend Tony Bain, written lots and lots of books, beautiful woman, great teacher. Ooh, one of my favorite teachers, very wise, very loving. Tony came and did a board training. We spent a whole day Saturday and had meals brought in. We had a lot of fun. And Tony's big on materials. If you've never taken a class or a workshop with her, you might not know this, but the woman spends, well, kind of like me, hours and hours and hours preparing materials for you and making sure that they work and making sure they're beautiful and they're perfect and la, la, la. So she brought in this marvelous workbook for us, and it was filled with gems, friends. Gosh, there was good stuff in it. She'd spent years accumulating bits and pieces of wisdom relative to what it means to be a spiritual leader. And I'm not talking about the Sunday morning person. I'm talking about leadership in the church, like board members. She spent years collecting information about that sort of thing and attending workshops herself. And so she put together a bunch of materials, grabbed them from all different kind of resources, and made this marvelous, marvelous workbook for us. And she reminded us, before we started, before we ever opened up the workbook to page 1, the very most important thing that is ours to do, all of us, leader or not, the most important thing for all of us to do is to remember we're spiritual beings. Most important thing for us to do. And then, as board members, to remember your first and foremost job is to remember that and then act like it. Because you're a spiritual leader, you see. It's incumbent on you, if you're a spiritual leader, there's an implication that you know it and you act like it. You act like you know it. So, in order to assist us, because Tony's very practical in figuring out whether we were in fact spiritually mature, whether we were in fact acting like it, fully developed spiritual beings, she introduced us to some work developed by Cindy Wigglesworth. So now I've talked to you about Tony Bain, who is there on the left. Is it your left? Oh, good. That's Tony Bain, beautiful Tony Bain. I swear she doesn't age. Every year I see her, she looks the same, and I don't know her secret. And then on the other side is Cindy Wigglesworth, and their websites are there in case you want to check these women out. Cindy Wigglesworth is a master teacher. You'll find her on YouTube doing TED Talks. And she has written 2 books that I know of about spiritual maturity. She's the expert in the field. Unity Churches found her back around 2013, I want to say, when she published her first book. And boy, I think she was invited to be a guest presenter at every Unity Church I know of at the time. Did a lot of work with Unity Churches around the subject of spiritual maturity. So over the course of all these years, she developed a little assessment tool. We used it with Tony that day. And when I found it, I was wildly excited because I couldn't wait to share it with everybody else. You know, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember, but there used to be a time when my mother received certain magazines when I was a kid, and we would always open them up and find those little tests that you could take inside to find out if you were in love, or to find out how in love you are, or whether you should break up. You know, there were little tests, and you would get a score, and then you would know what to do. I believed it then, really I did. Well, this is that kind of assessment, but there is no score. And the only value it has is the value you place on it, friends. It's a tool. It's a tool. I think it's a cool tool. So I want to share it with you today. So I'm going to ask somebody to pass these out, because I actually have one for each of you. And see, I didn't give them out earlier because you wouldn't be listening to me. You'd be sitting there reading them. I know you. So somebody willing to see that everybody gets one? Can you, Linda, you're willing, and Sherry or Ellie? How about Linda and Ellie? Thank you, dear. And get out your pen. Didn't know you were going to have to work today. I called it play. Some people might call it work. If we need more, I have them. I just didn't give them all to you. Take a minute. Oh, you can't read it? I'm so sorry. In order to fit it all on an 8.5 by 11, that's as small a font as we could use. Do we have enough? No? You need more? Well, here, just take them all. Okay, babe, you can hold on to them until the end. Good morning. Have a seat and join us. You came just in time to do some work. She's saying, yay, what did I get myself into? So if you have a pen, you want to get it out, and if not, maybe you can borrow one from a neighbor. Don't do it yet, though. Please don't start writing. I'm giving you a minute to glance at it, but then I'd like your attention again. So let me say this. The very first and most important commandment on all the planet, in all of history, as far as I'm concerned, is know thyself. Know thyself. There is nothing, I don't believe, more important than that. Know thyself. You know, one of the ruins of, well, one of the Greek temples, and I think it's at Delphi, but I wouldn't swear to that. There's leftover remnants of a great big stone arch. I've showed you pictures of it in the past and when I've talked about it, and it has the words chiseled across the top of it, know thyself. That's how important it is. The idea goes back at least that far. Know thyself. So this is a tool that you can use to know yourself a little better. I just did it yesterday. I mean, I was busy creating the talk and developing the idea of what I wanted to say to you and how I wanted to share it, but along the way then, I actually took some time to do this assessment myself, and I discovered a couple of things, and I'll share more about that. The instructions at the top say this. So, by the way, what you do is you read each statement, not right now, please, but you read each statement, and then you decide whether it is true for you 20% of the time, most of the time, half the time, 50% of the time, 90% of the time, or 100% of the time. And each one of those decisions has a value from 1 to 5, 5 being the best you could do. So if this statement is true for you 100% of the time, you get a 5. If it's true for you only 20% of the time, you get a 1. And then there are choices in between. That's how you score it. And the instructions are at the top. Although they use a double negative, I just changed it so it'd be a little easier to understand. So I chose a couple of them to talk about. And then after I talk about a couple of them, I'm going to give you a few moments to complete it here. Because you know what? This is a special space. I wasn't originally going to do it this way. You know, I was going to tell you they were on the back table, and I was going to say, when you leave today, take one and go. And then I got up this morning and said, no, you're not. Okay, fine. Because we create this space, you see. We just did that. We did that with Sherry's opening prayer and John and Dinah's music and the meditation. We created this space. There's such an incredibly positive energy going on in here. Let's take advantage of it, and let's do the assessment during that kind of in that kind of energy field. Because once you walk out the door, life happens. Okay. So let's look at this. The first statement I chose to talk about a little bit is this one. And I don't know what number it is on your sheet. Sorry, I didn't make a note of that, so you'll have to find it. It says, I have the ability to look for deeper meaning in events and allow that deeper meaning to determine my actions and responses. Now, I almost removed that from my list of things to talk about. And then I said, I said, nope, don't. Dig into it. Why do you feel like you should remove it? And then talk about that. Well, because if I spent all of my time looking for deeper meaning in everything, I think I would go absolutely stir crazy. Do you know? I really do. I think I'd lose touch with reality. I don't think it'd be grounded in my spirituality at all. I think I'd be something entirely different. So I'm not talking about doing that, stopping every time you sneeze or cough or have a reaction to look for deeper meaning. But consider life itself, your life itself. Think about that, for example. On one hand, you're born, right? You grow up, right? You have responsibilities ultimately in our society as an adult. So you set about learning how to take care of those responsibilities, and there's all that. But then there's more. There's a deeper meaning to being here on the planet, not here this morning, on the planet. That's a good time to search for deeper meaning. What's your deeper meaning for being here besides working and playing? And is there one for you? So you'll have to use your judgment about when to stop and look for deeper meaning, but I don't recommend you do it all the time. The next statement I want to talk about is this one. I'm willing to be held accountable for doing what I said I would. You know, I had an experience of that when I walked in the door this morning, and Paul Shepard handed me well, he didn't hand it to me. He told me that the miracle moment he created for today was already on the desktop on the church computer, because I reached out to him Monday and said, I'm counting on you, because he said he would do one, and I know how busy he is. And I knew I was placing a little bit of pressure on him when I said, I'm counting on you, but I did it on purpose. I don't mind telling on myself, Paul. And then on the way in, I said, I wonder if he did. So when I walked in and he said, it's already done, I was like, thank you so much, friends. See, in my universe, it's really, really, really important to be accountable for doing what you say you're going to do. I guess must have been hammered into me when I was a child. I don't know. Maybe I came in with that knowing. I don't know. Maybe I picked it up in Sunday school. I don't know where it came from. I just know I have a real deep feeling about that. Because you know what I've experienced is like when I tell somebody I'm going to do something and then I don't, there's an edginess inside me about that, around that person or that institution. You know, I have some students right now who are taking my classes for credit, and if I don't enter their grades when I said I would do it by Friday and then I don't, I have an edginess. And then if I meet up with them on the internet, I feel an edginess in their presence, and that's not okay with me. Do you know? Keeping your word, I think that was one of the 5 agreements, is it not, in that beautiful book? Yeah, that's how important it is. The beautiful man wrote this book called The 5 Agreements, and I think I'm going to do a series on that book a little very shortly, because the message is so powerful and so important. You know, but it's that important that he chose it as one of the 5. You know, of all the things you could decide to encourage people to get clearer about is keeping your word. That it's that important. I'm not the only one who thinks so. You feel good about yourself when you do it, right? When you do it, even if you didn't want to do it, but you said you'd do it, you feel good about yourself. There's congruity in you. There's congruity. There's a word for that. You said you did it, you do it, and you did it, and you feel good. That's congruity. I can't express my Christ nature if I'm incongruent, if there's a disconnect between what I said I would do and then what I did. So as I stand up here and say this publicly, if I ever told any of you I'd do something and I didn't, you need to let me know, because it's only because I've forgotten. Next statement I chose to look at just briefly. I do not react when invited to observe my behavior or when I'm given feedback. What a challenge this one is, friends, for me. I suspect I'm not alone, but I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand. And I know people, some of you, in fact, I won't name your name and embarrass you, but there are those among you who do not react defensively when you're given feedback or invited to observe yourself, because I've watched it. I can tell you, you don't react defensively, and I want to be like you. My go-to mode is to be defensive. It is, friends. And I know that it goes back to an old tape. You know, you can't erase that stuff. It lives on forever. You can change your experience of it, and I've done a pretty good job, but it still shows up in my life from time to time. I would have to give myself a 3 on that one. I'm just telling on myself to empower you to give yourself whatever you need to give yourself. I'm a 3. That means that I've identified that as my growing edge. How many of you have ever heard that expression, growing edge? Yeah? It's a good one. Growing edge, I didn't learn it. I heard it, I think, the first time in seminary when we were all being invited to look at all of our boobies, our boobs, not our boobs, no. Boo-boos. There are going to be more shares on this talk than any other talk I've given, simply because I said that. You know that. My daughter will be calling me this afternoon. When you're in seminary at Unity Village, believe me, at least in the old days when you had to live on campus for a couple of years, you were being invited to look at all your little idiosyncrasies, your little issues 24/7. So I heard people talk about growing edge there, and that just meant there's something that you needed to work on, and it was showing up. So people called it your growing edge. So on this assessment form, that one's my growing edge. I've identified it as a behavior I'm not satisfied with, so I need to take some time to look at it and spend some time on it. That's all. The next statement that I chose to talk about for just a moment is the one that says, I have the ability to look beyond appearances and see what's really important and respond from that awareness. And respond from that awareness. Because how many times are we quick to respond from, I don't know, some initial old tape reaction that shows up? I've learned to pause before I react. It's a good habit to get into. Pause for as long as it takes. Yeah, pause and breathe. Appearances are temporary. It says look beyond them. Why? Because they're temporary. All appearances are temporary. They're not really important. That's not what's important. Appearances are not what's important. I don't care what you're talking about. It's not what's really important. When someone behaves in a way that we could easily criticize, can we look beyond that? Can we look beyond that? Remember what's really important and then act accordingly. Someone who's fully spiritually developed can do that. Question is, how often? How much of the time? Good to know about yourself. How good are we at remembering that and then acting accordingly? The next statement I chose to just point out and talk about a little bit is this one. It says, I recognize that feelings of anger, fear, blame, hurt, etc., are signals that I am to do self-inquiry into what's up for me. If you've studied any of the Unity classics in Unity, or any other more contemporary material that's aligned with Unity's teachings, you understand this statement. So therefore, I believe most of you understand this statement. In a nutshell, it's commonly agreed by those who study spirituality that we're all prone to these feelings of anger, fear, blame, hurt, etc. We're prone to those feelings as human beings. We're familiar with them. We experience them. That's what I mean by prone to them. And so they're our comfort zone, you know? Maybe before we became aware of the fact that we were using them too much, we became so comfortable with them, they became habitual. A well-developed spiritual being refrains from lashing out when those feelings come up, from acting out of those feelings, acting out of anger. As far as I know, never served anybody in the long term, as far as I know. A well-developed spiritual being looks within to find out why they're feeling angry, and then ask themselves what's theirs to do about it. Again, know thyself. If something triggers your anger all the time, or most of the time, I invite you to take a look at that. And if you can't do it alone, reach out to a spiritual advisor to help you look at it. I can do that, just call me. Know thyself. Next statement that I chose to talk about is really, really important. I have the ability to speak authentically and know how to do it gently. How common, how typical is it for us to respond with platitudes, canned phrases, phrases that we know work because it's worked in the movies, it's worked before in our lives, you've seen it work on television, it's worked for you, you know it works, so you use it, you respond with it automatically, just in order to get to the next bit of dialogue, to the next part of the conversation. How common and how typical is it for us to suffer tremendous angst on the inside in order just to avoid saying something that's true for us and may not be well received? Ever been there? Agonized over it? Maybe. Just this past week, someone I adore shared with me an experience they had recently where they practiced authentic, honest communication in the face of statements that they were hearing, and how proud they were of themselves for doing it, and as well they should be. A spiritually mature person practices doing that. It takes practice. Once you do it a couple times and you realize the world's not going to come to an end, you know, they're not going to hate you, probably. No guarantees. You know, then you'll become more comfortable doing it the next time, and the next. Odds are they'll be grateful, even if not in that moment. Ultimately, be grateful. It's so difficult to be authentic sometimes, isn't it? And again, I think it goes back to old tapes that we may have developed in our early childhood, or that we came in with. I don't know which. Maybe there are tapes that say we should be nice to everybody no matter what. I remember hearing that one as a little girl. You be nice and smile now. Even if somebody was like, I don't know, kind of lecherous in my presence. You be nice and smile now, you know? And then I didn't know what nice looked like. How did I define nice? By watching the behavior of the people who said that. And I didn't always see the kind of behavior that I would want to model for my children. Maybe it harkens back to a tape that says it's important for everybody to like us. Maybe that's why we withhold authenticity sometimes, because it's really important for everybody to like us. And so if we say what we really want to say, they might not like us, and that's not good. I don't know. I don't know the whys of it. I'm not a psychologist. I know that inauthenticity, if that's a word, being inauthentic is epidemic in our culture. Being inauthentic. Authenticity is rare, but gee, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when you find it. It's a beautiful thing when you practice it. And the ability to do it gently, wow. That's like you should get an Academy Award every time you do it, because it's important to do it gently, always, lovingly. Speaking one's truth gently and authentically, I think it's time to resurrect that behavior. And we can begin right here with ourselves. So if it's a growing edge for you, take a look at it. See what you can do to improve that little bit of behavior. A spiritually mature being listens from the heart, friends. Listens from the heart. I'm going to do this, Linda Woodcox, and I know that it'll embarrass you, but I can't tell you how many times I've run into people in the community. Sometimes they're not people who come to church anymore, who tell me one thing about Linda is that she always listens from the heart. You know, it's a characteristic that you want to claim if it's yours, and live it boldly, because it matters. Respond from the heart. Listen from the heart and respond from the heart. Many of you do it well. You're not the only one, Linda. But I use you as an example. So there it is, friends. It seems to me there was one more and I want to make sure that I didn't skip it. So let me just go back here for a second and look. Excuse me. Isn't there one on your list about practicing the presence? No matter what. So let's just talk about that for a moment, because if ever there was a time, ever, in my lifetime, if ever there was a time, in my lifetime and yours, I might add, where it's important to do that, the time is now. Can we practice the presence in the face of the news and all discussion about the news? The news about what's happening in some other countries right now that's absolutely horrible. And I'm not suggesting we shouldn't know about it, but can we practice the presence when we're hearing about it? Just go right to the heart and react from the heart, period, not the brain. It's a challenge. I know it's a challenge. But gosh, it's so important, practicing the presence. There was a book written by a man named Rosenberg, and I can't remember his first name. I want to say it was Marshall, maybe, Rosenberg, called Nonviolent Communication, published years ago. Really important book. We had to study it in seminary. And that isn't as bad as boobs. I'm on a roll. I truly am. So we had to practice that in seminary. We actually had to be seated across from someone else and then be given a dialogue, and we had to prove that we mastered the skill of nonviolent communication. We had to practice it over and over and over again, and then be evaluated on our use of it, and then we had to use it. There were people watching us all the time. And so I honed that skill pretty well. And I remember not too long out of talk about whether these things end up serving you in the universe. Not too far out of seminary, I applied for a position at a little church up in Ocala. Some of you might know the church, and certainly all of you know where Ocala is. But a sweet little Unity church there. They have their own little church building. It's adorable on a big piece of land, and they've been around forever. Sweet community, much like yourselves. And they were looking for a minister, and I was a little ambivalent about it because I really didn't feel like moving up there. But I don't know. I was looking for a job, yeah, and it was available, so I went. And on my tryout day, someone pulled me aside after my talk and said, "We could really use some advice as long as you're here. We have this thing going on between two of our leaders. It's become very toxic. You know, they're not speaking to one another. They can't speak to each other without getting red in the face. That's how bad it is. And the toxins are spreading throughout the entire community, and it's just awful." And I'm like, "Oh, God, you hear this?" Let me see, what do I have in my tool chest? Because I was new. So what do I have in my tool chest? Nonviolent communication. I said, yes, I can do this. So my first experience of facilitating that kind of conversation. And I simply utilized the techniques that Marshall Rosenberg talks about in his books. And you know what it comes down to? It comes down to practicing the presence while two people work it out. Now you have to guide them. There are certain rules, and the rules are important. They have to abide by those rules in order to work it out, but it works. And your job is to practice the presence while it's happening. Know the guide, know the words, the guiding questions, and then practice the presence. So I can't say enough about the importance of it, friends. It's critical. It's critical. So there it is. I picked out just a few of these statements to use with you. Now, what I'd like you to do right now is just take a few moments. Some of you have probably already done some of these, but take a few moments and complete it. So we've created this safe space. The energy in here is real good, loving. You have open hearts. Just read those statements and score yourself somewhere between a 1 and a 5 for each one of them. We don't have tinkle music, and I didn't ask you to prepare some, and I won't hum, so just imagine a harp or something in the background. I'm going to bring the experience to a close because I'm mindful of the fact that several of you are looking into space, so that means that you've either already done it or you prefer to do it later. I'm also aware of the fact that there are people watching online who don't have this instrument, and I'm being unfair, creating all this space because they don't have it in front of them. So you've got a good start. Please finish it for your own good, for your own sake. Finish it up. Learn yourself, know yourself, learn about yourself better, know yourself better, know yourself more completely. There are possible 75 points. It doesn't say that anywhere on the sheet, but if each one of those 15 statements is worth 5, there's a possible highest score possible of 75. I don't know anybody on the planet who scores a 75. Well, actually I do. Probably Desmond Tutu, the Dalai Lama. Yeah, Nelson, well, yeah. Yeah, right, Nelson Mandela. Yeah. Love those guys. And I'm sure there are women as well. Their names aren't coming to mind. Mother Teresa. Yeah. So, finish it up. I know where my growing edge is, friends, and I'm going to work on it. How am I going to do that? I'm going to create some affirmations around that growing edge and post them somewhere close to my desk so that it's in my face, so that I see it daily to remind myself. I'm also going to journal about it about 10 minutes every morning. So when I sit down to journal, I'm going to spend about the first 10 minutes reflecting on where I'm at with that particular behavior or characteristic, just so that it helps. It helps to ground me in the fact that I want to improve upon it. So there it is. I want to end with a quote by Mr. Fillmore, one of the most beautiful quotes I've ever seen of his, actually. Enlightenment is of little or no value unless we continue to mature spiritually and emotionally. Truly, friends, it doesn't matter how old we are always to continue maturing spiritually. Thank you, and God bless you. I think we have special music.
Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy.
Make just one heart
The heart you sing to.
one
Smile that cheers you.
one face that lights when it nears you. Someone
You're everything to fame. If you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to? Love is the answer. Someone to love is the answer. Once you found them, build your world around them. Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy, and you will be happy too. Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy.
make just
One heart, the heart you sing to. Love is the answer. Someone to love is the answer. Once you found them, build your world around them. Make someone happy. Make just one someone happy, and you will be happy too.
Thank you.
Thank you, John and Dinah, and thank you, Reverend Linda. Now is the time in the service when we take out our tithes and offerings. We hold them in our hands, bless them with our energy as we say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love because I love to give. Okay. Ellie and whoever. Ainsley. Okay, Ainsley's going to help. Thank you. Today is the third Sunday, so we're going to hear a miracle moment. And I believe it's Mr. Shepherd's, right?
I know what some of you are thinking. What's a woman all dressed up inside of a church with binoculars? What is she looking for? You know what I'm looking for? Miracles. They happen all day long, every minute of the day. It could be a miracle happening right next to you. It could be your miracle, or maybe you're part of someone else's miracle. But in any event, we want you to start thinking about eliminating the word consequence from your experience and from your vocabulary, because consequences don't happen often, but miracles do.
Hello, Unity. It's me, Paul, or as the kids call me, Mr. Paul. Well, I'm here to tell you about a miracle I experienced right here at Unity. For several years, I've worked with a group of young adults, helping them to conquer everyday hurdles in life. Mundane things like going to the doctor, eye appointments, going to the dentist, driving permits, shopping for clothes, shoes, and always feeding them. And then in between, trying to keep them on a positive path through life. Then, you get those times where you question yourself and wonder, is this all worthwhile? Am I having any impact on these kids? Well, then this happened one Sunday. The kids found out their ride could not make it or pick them up and bring them to church. This was all last minute. So, when I was a kid and you told me I didn't have a ride to church, you know what I would have done? I would have smiled and went right back to bed. But no, not these kids. They went online, found a $10 taxi, which really charged them $25, that would take them to Port St. Lucie so they could go to church. Well, can you imagine? The taxi driver was so moved when she picked them up and dropped them off at church that she gave them $5 back and said, please put this in the offering plate. Now, when I saw the kids walk into church, I almost had tears in my eyes, even before I knew how they got there. When I found out they had pooled whatever money they had to come to church, I was speechless. They were way more responsible than I could ever have imagined. All I can say is, thank you, God. You shined a light in my life that I never knew existed.
That was great. Thank you. Come on, bring him up. Ainsley, I've heard about you for years. I'm glad to meet you. Your grandma talks about you, just so you know. Again, let's join as we. Sorry, Paul. Creator of all that is, we bless these offerings, these gifts to your use for Unity of Port St. Lucie. We bless every prayer request in the prayer box, knowing that it is granted. People can heal. Anything can happen through your powers. And for all of this, we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. Oh, sorry, didn't say that. Go back, go back. Yes, Marvia is our prayer chaplain today. She'll be over here if you'd like to share affirmative prayer after the service. Metaphysical Bible study is tomorrow, Monday evenings at 7 o'clock, right here. We're enjoying the heck out of it. Not sure how good I am at it, but I'm definitely enjoying it. I got it last week. I got it for the first time. I know what this means. Spiritual discussion is Tuesday? Is Tuesday at 7 o'clock, led by the commander over there, Mr. Hayes. Chair yoga with Lana, Wednesdays at 10, right here in the sanctuary. Oh, not this week, my bad.
Next 2 weeks. This week and next week I'll be gone.
Okay, so I lied. Not this week, but it'll be back.
I'll be back.
Prayer circles Thursday at 11. And next Sunday, after the service, new member orientation for anyone who would like to stay to just check out more about Unity. If you're unfamiliar, go through the process where you would be eligible to become a member. Or anybody who would like a review, I'm probably going to stay. Always nothing wrong with a review, especially after taking that thing today. I think I need a review. Yeah, we need some remedial classes, maybe. And I'm excited because World Day of Prayer is September, 8th, 9th? 8th and 9th, and we're going to join them live via Zoom or on, so anyway, that information's up there, so it'll be here in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock. It's a Thursday, and we'll join all of Unity. And I love doing that stuff. Yes. Okay, and the special prayer request form, this is a day, I caught it, Linda-itis, are in the back. If you're interested in, we hope you're interested in filming a miracle moment, and if you're really shy about the camera, like Paul modeled for you today, where he didn't really appear except his picture, so you don't have to be like on camera all the time. So you've got options and ways to share the wonderful blessings that happen in your life. Next week, Reverend Linda Machezik will be back. We're thankful about that. And just thank you to everybody who sets up, tears down, anybody involved, the music, whatever. We appreciate you. Oh, and there's a board meeting after service today. Don't forget, board members, please. And now stand and join us in our closing song, the Peace Song.